Hi, Mitch Ashley here. I'm very excited to be joined by Chris Betz, who's CISO with AWS. We are here at AWS Reinforce, a conference dedicated to security. So you can imagine how much fun we're having here. If you're into security, this is a good place to be. Welcome.
It is indeed. It's great to spend some time with you, Mitch.
I'm very, very excited to be talking with you. You did your keynote today, and I was really interested in several things, but I have a feeling some of your background that's led you up to this role, which, by the way, is a massive job. I can't imagine having as your responsibility. Can you kind of give us a little bit of your journey, your path to this role at AWS?
Sure. So my career started in the Air Force. I was very, very fortunate, privileged to be able to learn about leadership, computer security, and frankly, spend time in the Air Force doing that kind of work. From there, I spent several years in the U.S. government, and then I was really lucky. I had a colleague of mine who went to be the first CISO ever at CBS.
Oh, wow.
And he said, "Hey, Chris, will you come join me? Will you come help me build this program?" And it was an incredible opportunity. I got to meet a bunch of smart folks inside of CBS, get to co-build a cybersecurity practice. And the amazing part about that is these were in the days when cybersecurity was new. We didn't have CISOs. And so I got to go along on that journey, and I got to watch somebody else do it. And make mistakes as we go and learn and work. From there, I got the opportunity to work at Microsoft, leading the Microsoft Security Response Center. So Patch Tuesday, global worldwide response to security issues, and eventually security operations for Azure, and engineering for security operations for Azure. So just a really fun blend of things. You got to see the inside of it, what was at that point a relatively new cloud. I was then really lucky enough to go down to Apple and work with some amazing folks leading security for Apple products, and getting involved in engineering security solutions and parts of the operating system. Learn what it took to ship code and be part of a very different organization. I spent a few years there, and then when CenturyLink bought Level 3, I was given the opportunity to be the chief security officer for the combined organizations. And so had incredible time learning about telecommunications, big global worldwide networks, what is involved in being a chief security officer at that scale of a business that is just foundational for so much of what we do. And then Capital One was looking for a new chief information security officer. And I've always wanted to do banking because security in banking, it's hard. Mm-hmm. It's a completely different kind of challenge. And so I was invited to join, and so moved to Virginia and spent the past few years just with an amazing set of folks. When I was there, Capital One closed their last data center because they had moved all of their operations, entire network, into AWS. And so it was very natural, having been a customer of AWS, actually in several of these roles, to be. I knew the leaders here. I was very deeply involved in understanding AWS. So it was a natural move when Steve Schmidt said, "Hey, Chris, what do you think about being the CISO for AWS?" It was an easy answer. Yes. And I just been here for 9 going on 10 months, enjoying the incredible breadth of the work, the scale of the work, and just the speed at which things move, which is just absolutely so having a great time.
Fantastic. What a progression. I was kind of surprised in your keynote. One of the things you started with was hardware, talking about the security built into chips and to the enclaves, the elements that, oftentimes you're not a hardware company, but you are, right? Building your own hardware. Talk about that.
it's one of the things that I enjoy about just the breadth and scope. When you get good at security, when you get good at anything, you start looking at where is the leverage? Where can you do things that add extra capability? Where are you being held back by technology as it exists? And so you can certainly see that in our Graviton journey. We look at performance, cost, security. There's just immense work. And I'm fortunate that I had a background in having to do some of that, or having to do, in getting to do some of that at past companies as well. And so it really is, it's fun to be able to stretch those muscles again. And as I mentioned in the keynote, one of the things that both impressed and surprised me is, as a customer, I picked AWS because I knew what the security story, the security history was here. I felt very, very confident about it. I think sometimes we almost underplay our ability to tell our security story. I think Graviton 4 is a great example of this. I was there in 2023 at reInvent when we launched Graviton 4. We talked about all sorts of capabilities. What we didn't talk about at the time, the piece of the story that was never shared, was all of the security work that went in, all of the enhancements that were there. And I think that's telling in a couple ways. One, if we were a different company, we had different values, if we weren't going to advertise it, we wouldn't have done the work. But security is so important to us that, of course, we put that security stuff in. And in fact, as I dug around and started talking to people, it wasn't that people didn't want to talk about the security pieces. It was simply that, but of course we did it. Everybody assumes this. That's not the news. The news is the incredible capabilities, the cost, the performance, et cetera. And it'd have the conversation. No, actually, these cutting edge security solutions baked in, not everybody's doing this. Not everybody's doing this. Not everybody's doing this. And this has real value. And this is something that our customers should know, because they're putting a ton of trust in us. And it's important that they understand why we are trustworthy. We need to continue to earn that trust. So we need to make sure we're telling those stories as well.
You gave a really good example to make it real of why this is important. We work in the cloud. We don't think about hardware as customers, right? But you gave the example of being able to make sure that you protect a customer's AI data, for example, from other things that are happening on the chips, so that it's not commingled or entered, accessible by the logic on the chips that are important to you for running the hardware. But you can guarantee that separation to protect that confidentiality and that trust that customers have.
And trust is so important. Look, we know that each solution out there, every cloud is built differently. And making sure that we're able to consistently show and earn that trust, because people are putting their livelihoods, their most sensitive data, and I take that very seriously. We take that very seriously, and showing how and words are important. Actions are even more important. So the way we act, our security record here shows and continues to demonstrate how important we see this as.
Then you surprise me and you start talking about Rust. Programming languages and strong typing and memory safe and verification, verifiable. We're going through this transition. Maybe we're in the middle of it, I'm not sure, but CISOs have had to grow up in kind of a network security role, but now they're being asked to participate in the software world. Mm-hmm. And some know software. They've had a chance to do that. Many I don't know a microservice from a macro service, or whatever it might be. You start talking about Rust and why it was important to have so much Amazon software move to Rust. Was that a strategy that already started before you came and you helped propel it, or did you help institute that?
It was a strategy that already existed here. I guess two quick thoughts. So my background, and rightfully identified, I've been a software person. In fact, I've participated in many DEF CON capture the flag competitions and that kind of stuff. I wasn't kidding about the pen tester and me loving a good memory.
You always smile when you
I love doing that kind of work. That's fun. That's when I get a few extra hours after the kids and after the family. I get to go play.
So
So those are good days. But the theme for the talk and what I really wanted to help share with the audience was I came here thinking, I've been a customer for years. I talk to these security folks. I understand what they're doing. And then I find these hidden gems all over the place. So I couldn't bring all of it, but I pulled a few up. The security features we built into Graviton 4 that, unbeknownst to everybody in the world, we took a look at a next generation shard store and we said, Rust is the right choice because we can do all this provable security. We can be memory safe, we can be type safe, and we can be highly performant. And so teams are rewriting things that already exist using these languages, improving security. Would I, have a customer, ever know that? I, as a CISO for, at Capital One, never been a conversation that I knew, and nor is that visible externally. But I've got just these anecdotes, and what you saw was just a small portion of them, of where I had not truly appreciated how deep the passion goes for security, how deep the level of care goes for security, and how we make that clearly visible.
It's exciting. It's exciting to know that you're building in an environment where the trust is kind of built in. You're building our frameworks, policies that were written around AI, for example. Talk about AI, and if you had to put your customer hat back on, there's a lot of unknowns about AI. How is it different? Yes, the model is the code. Data changes over time. It kind of has a different flow than normal software. Looks and feels. I wonder too, from a security perspective, we have to do things that are different, protected. Do we have to respond differently when there are threats against it, or we have an incident? How do you think about that?
It's a great question. I tend to think of it in 3 layers. So there's the work we do to train or fine tune a model. It's when we bring our most sensitive data to make the model operate the way we need to. And the fundamentals of how we protect that. I mean, heck, I said it. The AWS-ness. Your data is your data. Period. End of story. This is your environment. These are your weights. This is your protection. Making sure that we've got the right protections around that, and that, as you would expect as an AWS customer, all of those things that you expect of every AWS service are just as true for the generative AI is incredibly important. So you get that layer 1 that's training. Make sure we bake those pieces in. Layer 2, that second layer is now you've done the training, you've done the fine tuning, you've got the model that you want, and you're now doing inference against it. And so how do you make sure that you've got the right protections around the model, that the prompts that go in are appropriate, the responses that come back only contain the information that you want, and that all the additional data you bring in other than the prompt, the RAG, and all the rest of those pieces are managed and secure as well. And so you get both the inferencing environment that we create, as well as things like Bedrock's guardrails, where we take the lessons that we've learned as we're building AI solutions, and we codify and try to make that as easy and accessible as possible, so that both the prompts in and the responses out can get filtered, can get reviewed, and have the right tools in place. And then there's layer 3, is in my mental model of generative AI, nobody uses a model on its own. A model exists for a business because they're trying to accomplish something. And so you need that application that uses the model, that brings all the other data about the customer or whatever else you're trying to do with the model. And this is AWS at its best today. This is all the work that we do with all the services to make sure things are secure. And it's something you can't you can't miss. You have to make sure that you're paying attention to. And so when I think about generative AI, there's some parts that are different, but there's some parts that are very, very similar. And I think working at each one of these layers, training, inference, and the application around it, we build security in all three places. You can see a little bit about where and how we've done that to give people the tools to do that, make it as easy as possible. We'll end up, and we'll continue to end up with some brilliant Gen AI solutions that are also very secure.
It's exciting, especially as AWS has rolled out AI capabilities and so many services. You in fact have to be a consumer of your own AI service as part of the service you're delivering.
And what we're working really hard to do is codify as many of those lessons as possible, either in blogs and documentation so we can help other people go on the same journey, even better, wherever we can, in tools that make it so that it is seamless, transparent, just a natural motion so that builders everywhere get the benefits of all that security expertise without needing to reinvent it as they go.
Very nice. I assume you have an opportunity to talk to a lot of other people who are CISOs, not just within.
That's what I love about the CISO community. Yeah, it's incredibly tight. We talk to each other all the time. And yeah, in this role, I get to talk to even more people. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No. I don't think most people realize that. We're able to share threat information, talk about security. You had an interesting way of describing it we're all part of a community. Many of our customers, your customers, are also customers of the competition, right? So if they're compromised for some reason, your customer now is suffering because of that, even if it's not your service, it could impact you and your relationship with them. So we don't want bad things to happen to our competitors from a security standpoint.
That's one of the things that I appreciate the most about the security community is regardless of which CISO role I've been, whether it's been telco, finance, or now technology. Honestly, some of the people I talk to most often are companies that are our peers. And because we have a job to do. The bad guys are on the outside and we have to keep them away from our customers. That is incredibly important. And as we talked about earlier, I really do think that the work that the U.S. government did with the CISA Act of 2015 really helps those conversations, that ability to share threat intelligence on a constant basis and really go, help protect all of our customers, no matter where they are.
Gives you some antitrust protection to be able to have those conversations.
Exactly. Yep.
So before we finish up, I wish we had about 4 more hours, but I don't know if you do, but what are the conversations you think we need to be having over the next 6 to 12 months as you kind of look forward? Obviously, things are happening very quickly. Things happen very quickly at AWS, rolling out services, but Gen AI, and there'll be something else that'll pop up on the horizon. What do you kind of foresee are the right conversations to be starting now?
I think generative AI remains and will remain for the next 6 months, 12 months, a constantly evolving conversation as we get better at it. And we are all continuing to explore and provide each other the right tools. That constant, as Steve Schmidt talked about today, that constant testing, that constant evolution, that virtuous cycle is incredibly important. I also think that we're not done with the zero trust conversation yet. I think the zero trust conversation, almost every company I've worked with who's gotten closer to where they want to be with zero trust, it takes a combination of a variety of technologies and some really careful refinement to do it. But when those companies get there, and the data shows how substantially more secure that they are. And so I think that's, again, a really good and ongoing conversation. How do we make that easier, faster, more seamless for companies to pick up and really get closer to that zero trust goal?
Wonderful. Well, we need to talk about security culture, culture of security. We need to talk about advanced zero trust. There's so many things we need to get back together for. So I hope we get a chance to do that.
I hope so as well.
Right. Chris Betz, CISO with AWS.
Thank you.
Welcome. And thank you for the great keynote today. And thank you for being part of our conversation.